On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
I sit up. I don't feel any different. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I leave, and literally like 2 weeks later, our income started to increase, and it tripled within 3 months. Now we're almost double where that was, and it's just like, this is insane. Like everything is just moving so incredibly fast, all because I shifted my mentality.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
Hey everybody, Chaz Wolfe. I'm back to you this week. My guest, Scott Simson, is an online YouTubist. Probably didn't even say that right, but this guy brings some incredible value. He's a super unique, almost unicorn in the space. I don't know of anybody else doing what he does as far as what the service that he offers on the YouTube channel. But guys, he breaks down so much struggle, victory in the story to get to the 7-figure plus mark that I want you guys to pay close attention because he's super real and authentic about what it took. And I think that you'll relate to it. So grab that pen and paper. Here it comes. Hey, everybody. Chaz Wolfe. I'm your host, Gathering the Kings. We're back on the show today. I've got Scott Simson on the stage today. Brother, welcome.
What's up? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to share my story. I love talking entrepreneurship. So let's go.
Let's do it. Dude, what type of business do you have?
I have a YouTube consulting agency where we do done for you and consulting work. And then I also run a video marketing conference called Video Marketing World. And that's here in Dallas.
Nice. Love it. We were just talking off air a little bit about Dallas, and I'm in Kansas City, obviously not too far from you, but yeah, Dallas is blowing up, I hear.
Yep. Everybody's moving here. Well, it seems like everybody's leaving California and going everywhere else. So California, New York, it's like they're all coming to central United States now.
That's right. That's right. Well, and what a great place to be with tax benefits and some warm weather. Right?
That's right.
That's awesome, man. Okay. So I'm curious at this stage in the game. So first off, congratulations, because we got connected because I saw a post of yours, how this awesome award for those that aren't in the marketing world, who may not know, there's a 2 Comma Club award given out by ClickFunnels, and Scott has recently achieved that level, which basically means you've been crushing it at a super high level. So actually, let's just start there. I'd love to hear about just like the journey to get there for you and like achieving that award. Like, I'm sure there's all kinds of emotions there. Let's just start there for a second.
Whenever I'm asked to tell my story, I'm like, where do I begin? Because it's like an entire life of kind of like taking baby steps, inching along to get to this place. Yeah. And I think that where it all kind of begins is like, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always known I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to be in control of my time, when really, like, that's kind of a joke, right? As an entrepreneur, you're like, you think you're in control of your time, but really you're just subject to your business at times until you can scale yourself out of your business.
That's right.
But I've always been an entrepreneur, always had that like itch, and always wanted to just find ways to solve problems and help people so that way they could be happy and I could have something of value to offer the world.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite ever figure that out really until I was in my early 30s, because my wife and I started 7 businesses in 7 years in our 20s. And every single one of those businesses, we lost money on them. But the thing is, we learned valuable lessons from every single one of those businesses.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, one of the biggest like mindset shifts that I had was not looking at the not successful businesses as failures, but looking at them more as, hey, this is my education. Like, it's going to cost me some money. I could go to college, which I did for 2 years. I didn't,
didn't finish that one.
And, I could go to college and I could spend $100,000 on an education, or I could lose $100,000 in business and essentially buy my education by just doing.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did, we didn't really have our first major business success until about 2014, 2015. Okay. And then we started making some money. We got into the over 6 figures a year range.
Sure.
And my wife and I got launched on YouTube, and we built up a YouTube channel and went full-time on YouTube from 2017 to 2019, then pivoted into video marketing world, our business. And then everything just kind of like snowballed into this awesome agency and conference. And here we are now 7 figures later. And it's like, it's great. We can get into the weeds, but really, I think that like the big point of all of this is to say, like, you don't fail, you learn. Yeah. And if you don't give up, you will get there at some point.
100%. I love both of those principles. And you're right. It's funny how a lot of people have heard both of those principles for so long that it almost feels like, meh, like there's got to be more. Like, give me the real thing, but it is the real thing.
Well, and we've been really transparent about the grind the whole time. Like, even since 2010, my wife and I wrote 2 books in 2009 and 2010. And we told our story back then about our 7 business failures. Right. And I think that people have actually seen how hard we've been grinding, for how long we've been grinding. We've been grinding. I've been married to my wife for almost 18 years.
Wow.
And we've been grinding since the very beginning. Like, we started our first business like right after we got married. And so I think that people can see, they've been able to see the grind. Whereas like you get a lot of people who just kind of come up and come out of nowhere, but in reality, they've been doing so much behind the scenes.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people who look at that, they just got lucky, or, it's this windfall type of an effect. And most of the time it's not. It's like these people have been working their butt off for years and years and years, and now they're finally reaping the rewards of it.
You're right. Your story or situation being on video and in the public eye, in the public space, you're right. Probably people have seen firsthand the struggle, as opposed to what you're saying with some others. They just don't get to see that part of it, the grind, if you will, what we call the warrior stage, until you can get to the king stage, where you can have a little bit more influence and start delegating out and start having a team and influencing your community and all these other really cool things you get to do in a business. But you got to go through the grind first. You got to go through the warrior stage. So
exactly.
That's awesome, man. I so appreciate the honesty there. I think that everybody can relate to that, especially the folks that are listening right now. They're probably most likely in that 6 figures. They're trying to get to the 7-figure mark. And, the reality of it is that they need more of what they're doing. They need to market more or better. They need to get more sales. They need to fulfill more product or projects or whatever they're doing. And they need to keep track of their money. Like, those are the 4 areas of any business. They need to repeat until they get big enough. And so you're saying if they just do it long enough and hang in there, don't quit, that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
What's funny is, so we teach YouTube, obviously, that's our business. And one of the like core principles that we tell people is like, hey, you have to go into this with a plan of never giving up. If you never give up, you will eventually make it. And it's the same with anything else. If you never give up and you commit to getting 1% better every time you take action, you will accomplish your goal. In athletics, in sports, in the Olympics, in business, in any skill that you're trying to learn, if you never give up and you commit to getting better, you will eventually make it.
Yeah, huge. I hope you're taking notes right now as a listener. Scott has given you some what may seem like fluffy answers, but I'm telling you right now, he and I both can come to an agreement on this, is that this is what the real deal answers really are. So I hope that you're paying attention. Scott, at this level, I'm curious. A lot of people would say that you've made it, or that silver spoon, or you got lucky, right? Like at this stage, why do you keep pushing? Like, why are you still wanting to go after this kind of like culmination of like, we finally hit this stage in business?
That's a really good question. I think I'm driven to help people, and there are always people that need to be helped, and we pivot and we move, and I'm super ADD. And so I'm always like all over the place, looking over here, looking over there. I've been able to stay focused on business, make sure that you don't let the shiny penny syndrome really affect you, because part of success is being hyper-focused on one very specific thing. It's all kind of, again, like just snowballed into this awesome place. I can't stop wanting to help people. I could see myself being an entrepreneur or building businesses for the rest of my life. I don't ever want to retire. I just like doing stuff too much, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you said several things in there that I personally relate to, but I'm sure every entrepreneur out there listening can, which is number one, obviously want to help people. Like there's got to be a level of that in every entrepreneur. Otherwise, the money or the grind or the build process will eventually wear on you long enough to where it has to be more than that, whether it's helping other people as your client or helping other people, meaning your team, or helping other people, your family. There's got to be a bigger purpose. And then the other thing too, just being shiny, like looking all over the place. I think there's some interesting things there that a lot of business owners struggle with. And eventually there comes a time though, where it does make sense to look in other places. You've got money now, you've got some resources, you got more time because you have a team, and you start looking at different avenues or maybe investments. But you're right. A lot of people start maybe getting a little distracted too soon.
I think the reason that is because we all want growth so fast, right? And we look to our left, we look to our right, and we see other people who seem to be getting the wealth or getting the accolades, accomplishments, whatever, faster than us. And so it's like we make these little micro pivots so that way we can adjust because we're picking up little tactics or tips or tricks, or even bigger, like, oh, they're doing this business, well, I got to jump on that. When in reality, again, they have just been hyper focused on one thing for long enough. Now they're reaping the benefits of it. And if you pivot, then all of the growth that you have done on this one lane disappears, and you immediately have to start over on this new venture, this new task or new skill that you're trying to learn. So it makes so much more sense if you ignore what's going on, you be happy for their success and cheer them on. And at the same time, you just stay focused in your lane. As soon as I stopped paying attention to what other people were doing and just was like, hey, I'm grateful for their journey. They're inspiring me. I'm going to take what I've learned and incorporate it into my thing. That's when things really started to change. I just stopped caring what other people were doing and just started focusing on what I was doing.
So good. So good. Yeah. And you're right too. The core of that, or the root of that, is the fear of man. You care what other people are doing, or you care what other people think about you.
That's ego. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you let go of that? How do you in that moment go, okay, enough is enough. I'm banging my head up against the wall here. I want to stop. I want something different. I want to be able to dial in. How did you do it?
So you want to hear a crazy story? This one's actually like mind blowing. So my wife goes to a holistic chiropractor, and he does a lot of mindset training, mindset shifting. And I had this subconscious fear of wealth. And I think it stemmed from when I was a kid and things that I had learned or that I perceived, or just my interactions with other people. And so I go to this chiropractor with the intention of really like eliminating some of these doubts and these beliefs that were like deep seated. I go in there and we were making about, I would say we were probably making about $20,000 a month at the time.
Okay.
And I go in there, and for about half an hour, he works on me and we start giving me these statements to say. And it's like, I believe I am worth $1 billion. I believe I am worth $100 million. I believe I'm capable of making $1 billion. Right. And he gives me these statements, and then he does this like funky muscle testing. I don't know if you've ever done that before. It's crazy. Yeah. And so I start doing this stuff and I go weak on some of these statements. And so then he really like taps into the belief, and it comes down to confidence in myself and belief in myself. He does some more crazy stuff where I cross my legs, I say the statements, I close my eyes, I think about what I'm capable of until I have like a mental shift. He's like, I want you to repeat this in your brain until you have a mental shift. And I finish up, I sit up, I don't feel any different. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I leave, and literally like 2 weeks later, our income started to increase, and it tripled within 3 months. Wow. Our income tripled within 3 months. And I had been capped at like that $20K a month for a good long time. And then from there, now we're almost double where that was. And it's just like, this is insane. Like everything is just moving so incredibly fast, all because I shifted my mentality. And I know that sounds like out there and crazy, right? But if you think about it, like what deep-seated issues are holding really are holding anybody back. Like it could just be the way that you process something, or the way that you see an opportunity. If you see an opportunity, you think to yourself immediately, like, I could never do that. Well, then you're never going to be able to do that. But if your first thought is, I can do anything I put my mind to, then you're going to go after it. You can be tenacious and you're going to crush it. Yeah. And so it all boils down to the same stuff. It's like belief, confidence.
100%. You're you're striking a chord, I'm pretty sure, with almost every single listener. But then you gave a practicality of, this is how you do it, right? And so for you, it was being able to dial into some of those core beliefs or doubts. And so what have you done since then? Like, how do you hold on to that? Do you have a daily discipline, or do you have a weekly routine? Like, what do you do to be able to hold on to what happened in that day that was kind of monumental for you?
That's a really hard question to answer, because I don't really know. Like, I just know that now I believe that I'm capable of anything, and I try to present myself that way. And it doesn't mean I don't have hard days. Like, I have hard days all the time, but I also know that every time I have a hard day, that's immediately followed up by something incredible. And so in my brain, I believe that something amazing is coming immediately after a hard day. And so my brain is on the lookout for opportunity, and it's on the lookout for connections and networking. And I always find it. And there's always something amazing that happens after a hard day. I had a client. We had one of our clients leave us a couple of weeks ago. This is fascinating. She wasn't doing the work that we needed her to, because she had a whole bunch of family issues and personal things going on. And so she ended up leaving, and it was a disappointment. It's always hard when you lose a client, especially when you build a relationship and a friendship with them. But I was like, if she leaves, that void's going to be filled. Somebody's going to come in. And so I wasn't afraid of it at all. It was disappointing for a minute. And then I was like, okay, no, it's all good. Somebody else is going to come in. And the next day I wake up and I'm thinking, okay, where is it? Somebody's going to come in. And I check my email. I'm going through the motions of just going throughout the day, and I'm thinking something's going to come in. And it was about 11:30 a.m. And I think to check my Slack and just connections with our clients. And one of our top clients, our best clients, was like, hey, I've got a referral for you. And they sent it at 7:30 a.m. And I was like, there it is. And there it is, and from then it's like, we've had 2 or 3 clients reach out to us, 2 or 3 new clients reach out to us a week. And it's like, as soon as there was a void, it was filled, not only filled, but super filled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. A mindset is everything. And as much as it feels, like you said, out there, it's actually not very far at all. It's just right in your brain. It's in your mind.
Yeah.
And for the people that it does feel out there, it's because they've put it way out there, as opposed to confronting it and talking about it, thinking about it, writing about it, saying about it, whatever you need to do in order to get yourself to that place. I remember when I first read Think and Grow Rich, and it just right over my head. I was probably 19, 18. And I circled back to it a handful of years later. And since that circle back, it's an annual read for me. And this was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so ago. We moved, and I found a piece of paper that I had written down, in essence, what the book, it has you go through, and you have your income statement and how you're going to get it and what the services that you're going to provide, and, all that stuff that it has you go through in the book. And I found my sheet from like 3 years prior, but this moment was like 5 years ago. So 8 years total ago. And so I'm reading this. It was like the bottom of a page. I hadn't packed it or anything. It was just the bottom of a book, or at the bottom of a box. So I'm reading this page, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I freaking did that. I did what was on the page,
Yes.
But I remember when I wrote it down, I read it every single day for that year. And then I don't know what happened to the page, but somehow it got put in a box. And then it reminded me years later of like, and I was still doing it. I had obviously moved on to the next goal and moved up the income. I mean, we just keep moving, but yeah, I remembered that. And I remembered the moments because it was the first time I'd done it. And it was incredible to look back and go, wow, I freaking did it.
No, yeah. You set an intention. It's fascinating, but what helped you, I'm sure, accomplish that is that you held onto those beliefs and those things subconsciously, at least.
100%.
And you came back to it and you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Yeah. Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books. One of the very first, I guess it was a book, but we watched the video, The Secret, 17, 18 years ago when it came out. And that was like one of our first introductions into the power of thought. Now, do I believe that you can will things with your brain? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I think that the principles of setting an intention on things will move you subconsciously towards those things. I'm reading a book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I think, by Dr. Joe Dispenza right now. And it's absolutely fascinating. It's about intention, and it's about setting your mind towards the things that you want. And he's got this story in there, and it's another really fascinating thing. He's talking about how there was a study done on 3,000 patients who had sepsis. And the study was, they had a bunch of people participate, and they were supposed to pray for half of the people who had sepsis, and then not pray for the other half. It was supposedly to figure out, if the power of prayer is legitimate. And so they do this thing. And after the study is done, they found that on average, the people who had sepsis healed faster and overcame their sepsis in a shorter period of time than the people who did not. The craziest thing, though, is that not everybody who had sepsis at the time of the study. They did a number of people who had sepsis 10, 15 years before, and the people who were participating in the study didn't know at all.
Right.
But on average, those people healed faster too. So his point is that prayer and intention transcends time. I don't know if you're a religious guy. I'm a Christian. I'm a religious guy. And so for me, like the way that I have shifted my intention and my prayers now has been not only for the present and the future, but also praying for myself in the past and praying in gratitude that I received the education and the training and went through all the hardships that I did, because they've set me up now and set me up for the future. Like prayer and intention transcending time is like mind blowing to me.
I love it.
But super fascinating. And the book is incredible. And it's not a religious book. It's a book about intention. But it's insane. Yeah,
really what you're breaking down, like you're saying, is thought intention. And so I love that. And that's what I have taken away from another perspective of, being a believer, having a Christian faith, but reading Think and Grow Rich. And it's like, you can call it training your subconscious mind, or you can call it prayer. You can call it dialoguing with the Holy Spirit if you want to, but whatever your desire is to name it. I know what it is.
Yeah. And it works.
And it works. I'll tell you that for sure. Especially when you can look back on your own history and go, okay, not that I've seen it in others. Okay. I hear your story. It's inspiring. But when you can look back on your own, and it doesn't have to be just money related. It can be a history of whatever you were thinking about. Cause you're right. A lot of times when you focus in and you dial in on something, that's typically what you're going to get, not because you've willed it per se, but because your brain has been open and ready for those things to be made available to you and to happen.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
So good. Well, man, this is not where I was anticipating this conversation to go, but love it. Love it.
It's always on like the top of my mind in conversations now.
Yeah. Well, and as it should be. And gosh, I mean, I think mindset work and what we're talking about is actually the foundation to a lot of what people are missing in their business, because a lot of times they're just going through the motions and they haven't sat down and been intentional about what they're trying to do or what they're trying to accomplish or what their goals are or what they want out of life or any of that. So I'm going to use that as a transition to talk about decisions. I love good and bad decisions. You've shared a couple of things here so far about some of the rocky parts of the road. I'd love to hear a good decision that you made along the way that you think would be super applicable for someone who's listening right now that just is trying to get to that next level.
Yeah, I think the best decision that I ever made was to hyper focus and become the brain surgeon of my industry, of my category. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at doctors, when they go to college, they have a few different paths they can take. They can go into be a general practitioner. They can go into being a ophthalmologist and becoming an eye surgeon or an eye doctor. There's so many different fields within the medical community that you can decide, but the highest paid is brain surgeon, right? There aren't as many brain surgeons as there are general practitioners. They're highly specialized and they get paid the most. General practitioner makes on average like $250,000 to $300,000 a year, whereas a brain surgeon can make $700,000, $800,000, $1 million a year just by being a brain surgeon. They're highly specialized. The best decision I ever made was to stop being a yes man to every request that came into me, thinking I had to take it in order to pay my bills, in order to scale my business, and just say, nope, this is the only thing that I do, and take it or leave it. And what that's allowed me to do is become the specialist on social media with YouTube, and people pay me basically whatever I ask now because I'm so focused. I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook. I don't do anything else. I am the YouTube guy. The riches are in the niches, they say, right? So I wholeheartedly believe that. And I tell anybody that I can, even on YouTube, I'm like, if you want to be successful on YouTube, be very specific with what you teach. Be that guy.
Exactly. The wife part of your team, talk on that for a half second, because I know you said you've done everything together. My wife's not involved in my businesses, but I can tell you that her involvement in me has made it makes all the difference of how I show up every single day.
So Alex and Layla Hermosi, some of your audience will probably know who they are, but they're this incredible power couple right now, on the rise on every social media platform. They've written books, they do business together, and one of the things they say is making sure that you have a partner that is either a cheerleader or she's a doer with you. Like, she gets things done with you. And I was blessed that my wife was both. She's a mover and a shaker, and she also is a cheerleader. And so 4 years ago, she decided to step away from our business so she could focus on homeschooling our kids. And now, she's my biggest support, my biggest cheerleader. I can go to her with questions and talk to her about business decisions. And I can go to her and lament about difficult things and hardships that I'm going through. And she's always there to help buoy me and keep me up and keep me lifted and give me advice and talk me off the ledge when things get rough.
Right.
So my wife is the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of life in general, but also in business. Having a partner that can really, really encourage you and also help you maintain the level of confidence and faith that you need in order to be successful. Very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the confidence piece that you were talking about, even that you were gaining from dealing with some of your doubts, even all that work that you've done there, if you go home to the quiet place where wifey isn't on the same page and destructive even, the rest of it goes away.
Yep.
You can do all the self work you want, champ. But man, it's going to be difficult if the quiet place at home isn't quiet and restful and encouraging and a place where you can delineate from the day, because that's exactly what my wife has been as well. Not necessarily. She's a doer, that's for sure, but just not necessarily in the business. It sounds like your wife's the same now, where it's like, we've got a whole family with the kids and a bunch of other things going on at the farm. And we come back together at the end of the night, but she'll be the first one to say, hey, get on out there, champ. I believe in you.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Well, no, what's funny is Layla Hermosi actually did a video about this, and she said that they give presentations to their staff and to their coaching clients and things like that. And she was like, last time I gave a presentation, I had 2 people go home and get a divorce. And I had 2 people in our audience who ended up marrying each other. And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. When faced with reality.
It's one of those things. It's like, it's a hard topic, but it's just so important that you surround yourself with people that are going to help you get to that next level. And I would never, I could never be the person who'd be like, have a hard conversation with somebody about their spouse. But I know what it's like to have a spouse that's incredible, and it's very helpful towards accomplishing our goals.
Yeah. That's a very, very, very light way of saying it, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So quick question here before we transition to the speed round.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of discipline or formula when it comes to decision making? You've kind of mentioned some of the ways that you do things, kind of big picture. You've mentioned sometimes you talk with wifey, but is there like a certain process that you follow when trying to make good decisions in your business?
So I try to study things out as quickly as possible in my brain. I go over lists of pros and cons. I don't write things down. My wife's she's a type C personality, right? On the disc personality.
Sure.
So she's like very analytical. So she'll do spreadsheets and lists and things like that. That's not how I work. I usually intuitively I feel like this is good, and these are the reasons that it's good. But I don't really have a process other than just feeling it out. I from Think and Grow Rich, again, was it Henry Ford said, make decisions quickly, change your mind slowly.
Right.
And so that's kind of the principle that I live by. It's like, I'm going to make a decision fast. And once I make it, I'm not going to transition until I really have hard data telling me this is either good or this is bad. But I also don't take risk more than I can handle. Right. I learned that the hard way early on in our business. Our business journey was spending more than I had. And so I scale things within my means, and things have been, things have worked really well for us to get to 7 figures. Sure. Now, if I want to get to 9 figures or 10 figures, if I ever get to that point, then I'll probably have to think about doing things differently by creating funds and things like that with money that I don't personally have. But I think that scaling wisely and being smart about how you scale is really important. Yeah. It's an important part of growing and then maintaining your confidence as well, not having fear or stress kind of looming over your shoulders.
Yeah, 100%. So good. Thank you for that. That's extremely valuable. If the listener is paying attention, they've gotten high level, they've gotten super practical from you. And even just like what you're thinking of is how you go through your process. The emotional piece of making decisions doesn't have to be a roller coaster, which I love is what you just said. You said, I'll make a decision quick and it's based on emotion or feeling, but then you'll stick to it. There's a stick-to-itiveness about your decision making, a commitment around seeing things through, which all ties back to the perseverance that you mentioned at the beginning of the show here, which is like, look, doesn't mean that you have to be sold on something forever, but man, if you just stick with it long enough, you're probably going to see what you're looking for in the end.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Being sold on those decisions. I love it. Okay. So speed round, you ready, dude?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
You could only track one metric, since you just told us that you don't track much. Your wife tracks. What would it be, man? What metric would you choose if you could only pick one?
I don't know. Probably P&L. I mean, it really it all kind of boils down to profit and loss. Where's my money going? And if I can see a snapshot of where my money is going, it's easier to make decisions based off of that.
Yeah, 100%. Good. You already mentioned a couple books here, Think and Grow Rich, and then the other one that you mentioned. Any other books that you'd suggest a 6-figure owner reading to get to the 7-figure mark?
So the first personal development business book that we read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that's just such a great foundational book for anybody who's understanding assets and liabilities and making sure that you're making good decisions with your money. Also, Richest Man in Babylon, great book, Greatest Salesman in the World, The Alchemist. These are all books that really help with the mindset. Yeah. And I would say any of the old stuff, just like Think and Grow Rich and the stuff that was written in the early 1900s was just so good. And there's not a pitch in it. And so at the end of the book, you don't feel like you're missing something, because a lot of the business books right now are written as sales copy with the intention of getting you to get into their program. I'll go back to As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's you can read that 100 times over. James Allen's long gone. It's his book is just meant to help you out. And so I've really cut out a lot of the newer stuff because I'm just tired of being feeling like I'm being sold something in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know if I've verbalized it quite like that, but I love the old stuff. And maybe for that reason, I don't know, but it just is very, very practical and real. And all the books that you've mentioned, it's funny. One quick thing. I don't normally do this on the book recommendations, but The Richest Man in Babylon, for me, what's it, like a 30-page book, a 60-page book? It's not short, not very big at all, super short. And I didn't read that early in my journey. I was already doing multiple seven figures, and I read that, and it was like, I'm not bad with my money. I'm not, I'm aggressive, but I'm not dumb. Right. And so, but even as I read that book, being a smart business owner, being aggressive, but not overdoing it, I still got so much from that book, because I was probably 6 or 7 years into having multiple very, very successful businesses. But what I was doing was I was shoveling it back in, which is fine. That's okay. You have to do that for a period of time. But that simple principle that I've known forever of pay yourself first, basically, was so mind blowing for me at that time of like, you got to start taking things off the top. Otherwise there is nothing, like you don't have a real business really. I mean, you do, but we're kind of delineating here, but man, that book, even at a high level, was so profound to me.
Yep.
Such a great book.
I think that's why, like, As a Man Thinketh, also, it's like 30 pages. It's so short, but so profound. And you can get everything you need out of those couple of books to really have like a solid foundation to just start working from.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's why I read Think and Grow Rich every year now, is because at every level, it feels like the same material gives you something different.
Yeah.
Because the way that you think is different, ideally. And so you're reading quote unquote the same material, but it's a fresh perspective on the next level that you've achieved. So
exactly.
Timeless material, really. Okay. Do you intentionally network or mastermind with other entrepreneurs?
Yes, I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths, is getting into circles of people who I want to be working with. Yeah. And so like I manage Russell Brunson's YouTube channel. Russell Brunson, for those of you who don't know him, is the CEO of ClickFunnels. He's massively successful. And just being around him, involved with him, was super beneficial to our success. I do so much business in the ClickFunnels community just because of the relationships I built there. I've had the opportunity to interview Mark Cuban. We worked. I was a preferred vendor for Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban companies for all of his Shark Tank deals. Did a lot of business with his Shark Tank people, and it's like every person that I want to get in touch with, or I want to do something with, I ultimately end up getting there because of the relationships I build. And I think the key factor in relationship building is to never ask for anything, always offer something. And there's kind of this law of reciprocation. When you give somebody something, they want to help you, especially when you do it with the intention of never asking for something in return. And I've always been able to just scale the social ladder, work with people who I want to work with, because I'm just so value oriented. I just want to give people everything that I've got. And I work super hard in order to get into these circles, and it always ends up working out. So now my intention right now is to do something with Elon Musk, whether that's getting him on a podcast or just, I don't know, doing something with him. I just think it'd be really cool because he seems like a really solid dude.
Seems like a solid dude. The richest man to date.
I'll get in there. It'll happen.
Of course. We've already discussed why. That's great.
That's right.
All right. Last question here for you, Scott.
Yep.
If you lost it all today, what would you do?
I'd build it back up. Like I know now that I know how to do it too. Like I would probably do it 2 or 3 times faster because I know exactly what steps to take. And I think that's probably what I do. Now, if I were like I'm gonna twist your question around a little bit too. Like if I were to not lose it all, but if my business were to disappear with enough to retire, I would go and I would restore old buildings and houses and furniture and projects. I love breathing new life into old things.
Interesting. Is there a fix and flip business in your future?
You know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do stuff like that. I've got 4 kids, and I'm getting really good at spending not a lot of time in my business, because as we're scaling, I'm outsourcing some of my tasks, and I'm really enjoying my time with my family and my kids. And so I don't know if I'd want to like go and take on like a house flipping project right now.
Yeah,
at their ages.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, maybe there's a who out there for you as far as somebody who would run with you on that. So that's great, Scott. I so appreciate you just giving us the real about your journey, and you talked about value and giving value, and that's really, it's obviously why I do the show, but then why guys like you come on to the shows, because it's all about giving away the things that have worked, not worked, and trying to help the entrepreneurship community just raise up as a whole. And so rising tide raises all ships. So thank you for your value. Thank you for just coming and pouring it out. We really appreciate it. And if someone connected with you today, just they want to reach out, or maybe they want to hire you to run their YouTube channel, how do they find you?
You can find me on social. I am Scott Simson without a P. And it's not I am, it's I am, like I'm Scott Simson on Twitter, on Instagram. They can find me on Facebook, or you can go to our website, which is graffiti.com. It's graffiti without the G.
Nice. Love it. Well, if you've found value in Scott and want to connect with him, those are the ways you can definitely do it. But dude, man, you've given us a ton here today. Thank you so much for doing that and coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to Gathering the Kings. We hope you got a ton of value today and learned a thing or two about taking your business to 7 figures and beyond. If you desire more and want a community around you to help you get there, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. That's gatheringthekings.com. And I want you to apply for our next Becoming a King 90-day intensive. We are extremely exclusive by nature as a group. What that means is that we're really wanting only the entrepreneurs who take their business and targets super serious to apply. So if that's you think you got what it takes to level up your business, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com and apply. And we will see you on the other side.